everybody. Welcome back to Copic in the Craft Room. Michelle Houghton here. I have a Tiddly Inks image. Tiddly Inks is a friend of mine, in fact, Christy Kroll, and she designs all of these fun little images. She is online only, so only digital art these days. She has a few kind of remaining little acrylic stamp sets from when she was doing a lot of that, but she has an Etsy store now and it's all digital. But I have loved her stuff for years and continue to. Every time she puts something new out, I find myself putting 5 or 6 new stamps in my bucket, and so I have this whole pile of wonderful digital stamps from her that I never seem to find quite enough time to use, but hopefully over the next few months, even if I'm just coloring them and posting them to you guys, and I'll put like color selections, even if I'm not doing videos, you're going to see some more of her, because I think she's an amazing woman and crazy supportive of other artists, all around good person. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and do skin and hair, kind of how I usually do on a figure, and I'm actually going to turn this young lady upside down. So she is turned upside down with her head looking between her legs and her little cat sitting up on her rump. But I want to be able to think of the face in the way I normally do, so I'm going to turn her around so her face is upright for me. And I am going to do a little bit darker skin tone this time. So I am going to actually base this in an E11. See if I can get that in a place where it's not creating too much of a shadow. And we've got her face and we've got her legs, because her legs are out. They're ready for the warm weather. I'm always amazed that kids can withstand that way more than adults can. They're ready when it's 40 and 50 degrees to grab the shorts. And I'm going to go ahead and base that all at once. Now you could do this in sections, and you could do just the face or just the legs and get those going first. So I have to think about it though, because I have her upside down, or the image upside down. The sun is coming from up above, and she is going to be pretty much in the shadow because her waist and her tummy is actually over her face. So she's not going to get a whole lot of light. We still want her head to look round, so we're still thinking in terms of shape. But like, we wouldn't have the heavy cast shadow under her hair because it's not coming from that direction. So E13 is next. And I'm still going to create kind of this rounded sphere-like shape. It's going to kind of close in on the center of her face. And you can decide if you want to add a little nose. I'm going to go ahead and add just a little hint, and I'll do a little more of that when I come in. Now, proportionately, when Christy draws faces, the eyes tend to sit low, just because that's her style. It's her graphic style, and they're crazy cute. But so you may or may not want to do a nose, and that is completely up to you. We've got long cylinders for legs. And they are wide enough this time that I feel like I can go down both sides to kind of create that shape. I'm going to come in a little bit further from the inside, kind of highlight or shadow where that knee, the back of the knee is happening. And you can see as the 1-3 dries, it actually does get quite a bit lighter. Kind of is already blending in a little bit. I am going to use a little bit of E15. And again, remember, we're not going to see necessarily more at that hairline. Little hint of that nose. It's more that issue of creating that roundness. We definitely will see kind of the hint of that cast shadow under the shorts. We're having to kind of I'm having to think of some of it a little backwards, since our sun is coming from the current bottom of the page because of the way I have it turned. But this way it's easier for me to see what's going on. So that's, for me, this is making it easier. You make it easy for you. But this is kind of a fun, deeper skin tone. I like this group. So I've backtracked to my E13 and realizing that this nib is one that I need to change out. It's pretty soft. I'm in the process as I color with each of these markers now, setting some aside and showing them some love. And this one obviously could use some, so it will stay out on my table. So what I'm doing is I'm hitting those places where the E15, that edge, so that I can soften that and blend it into the rest of my image. So it's a little bit more of a smooth transition from one shade to the next. And then E11 is going to go right into that highlight area, push out. Now if I've gone quick enough, I can kind of work right into that mid-tone and stop. But if it's drying, I'm going to have to go all the way back out. So kind of pay attention to your ink. If it looks like it's blending and flowing, you're okay. But if not, you're going to need to go all the way out to that edge. And remember, when you bring that lightest tone back in, if you're going light to dark, like what I'm doing now, you have to color over that entire highlight area. If you only color over just that edge, you definitely are going to end up with a watermark. I'm looking at these and it actually looks like I've created more like kneecaps versus, so I'm coming back in and darkening across the back of the knee a little bit more. There we go. That looks more like a back of a knee, not a kneecap. I love the fact that I can make adjustments as I go. All right, so then I'm gonna go ahead and flip her back the direction I want her. While that's drying, I am gonna come back and actually do some specific cast shadows, but I'm gonna go ahead and do her hair. I'm going to do kind of an auburn reddish brown combination, and this is going to lean toward darker though, because I've done that dark skin tone. We know she's not a strawberry blonde. We're going to go darker, but I am going to start with a fairly light tone. This might go basically disappear completely, but it's another, I have a couple favorites. Get you guys a little closer for that. This is one of them, and it's the darker of the two. I like the YR31 and the YR30 to base those because it has just that little bit of both the yellow and the red. So I'm going to put this on her hair, but I'm also going to put it somewhere else. My little cat friend up there, I think it'd be fun to turn her into a tabby, or him into kind of a tabby cat. Oh, you know what? I just realized this is one of those you discover things as you go. Her hands are on the ground and we missed them. So let's do this. We'll come back to him in a second, but I'm just realizing it somewhere out there. Someone's watching and saying, she's got hands, and that's behind her shoes. We can see her little hands. So let's get the hair and our kitty cat colored, and then we will come back and get those hands real quick. That won't take very long since they're so small. All right, so that is my YR31, and then I'm going to go into a couple YR2s. And so these are, again, two of my ones that I love. YR24, and then it's going to be YR27. So starting with the 2-4, even though she's upside down, think of it in the same terms. So we're going from the part out, and I'm trying to go in the direction the artist has shown me. On Tiddly Ink images, on Christy's images, she always gives you just enough hints to kind of have that hair going the direction that she's created with it. But it's not so much that you feel like you're fighting her lines either. Now this is, now I know I am definitely going to get this hair darker, and so for this layer I can do quite a bit. I don't want the that undertone, that highlight tone to disappear necessarily. That's not my goal here, but I am going ahead and adding quite a bit of this color. And remember, you can always add more. So if you've kept it lighter to start, the beauty of keeping it light is then you have that control of saying, nope, that's enough. That's as dark as I want to get it. And you have much more control. When you get it too dark, it is very hard and sometimes impossible to backpedal and get things lighter. So always, always, always in your coloring, kind of err on the side of too light and come back and adding in those darker tones. At least that's what I would tell you. Okay, now the other piece is obviously, again, she's upside down, so we aren't necessarily, if anything, I probably should have left a little bit more of a highlight at the top of where those ponytails fold over, but again, probably a little late now. I'll see if I can adjust that with my darker colors, because I'm at least going up 2 more times, if not 3. So my next one is a YR27. Again, this is just kind of that series of YR2s. And again, if you're not familiar with the YR2s, they are worth kind of paying attention to, especially for hair. If you're a person who does hair a lot, it is a really pretty group of colors. So it's a fun one to kind of explore. Let's see, and if I want to try to get the tops of her little tails a little, we're going to bring that dark up a little higher, and I'm going to try to leave kind of that little top. And I'll be able to lighten it up a little. But darker near the ground, a little bit of dark right where it comes out of that hair tie, because I still want to show that it's gathered. And if the hair is darker, you definitely are going to have that deeper tone. And if you're confused about where to put highlights and lowlights and shadows and cast shadows, always, 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 photo references are the best place to kind of figure some of those things out, or real life, even better. Look at your kids' hair, your friend's hair, see how it is behaving in certain light situations. I'm not sure your friend is going to set down on their head down on the floor for you, but you get the idea. All right. So now it's looking a little orange to me, and I want to tone this down. So with hair, I will usually then add in some earth tones. So the first one I'm going to add, and again, this is going to be my question. This I'm going to add no matter what, and then I'm going to add the last color if I feel like I need to go darker for the skin tone. So this is an E15. It's actually not a whole lot darker, but it's going to tone it down, kind of desaturate that color a little bit. And each time I'm coming in and adding a layer, I'm losing just a touch more of that highlight, and that is purposeful. Right at the top, but it's going to desaturate so it becomes a little less brassy, a little less orange, and leans a little more auburn. That is exactly the goal with this color. And then the next color, and I'll double check it kind of off to the side. If I don't have it right, we'll swap what I have on my table. The next color, if I feel like I need to go actually darker, I'm gonna add that. And my guess is I'm gonna need to, so. It's getting close though. But I think I definitely am gonna wanna go one more. So I have a spare over here. This is what I just used, the E15. This is an E25. Thinking. I'm actually, it's gonna be too dark, I think. Yeah. I'm thinking while I do this here, so bear with me. Going through some options, and I think I'm just gonna stay kind of with what I had, but go, yep, okay. I don't want it to go so cool, but I really want to get some darker tones. So this is an E27, and these are going to be more carefully placed. So right where it comes out of the little tail and where it's coming up in a few kind of really specific spots from the floor. I'm going to use the lines on the stamp to kind of reinforce a few of those. Right out from the leg and the hair tie, from behind the leg and under that other piece. A few little pieces right from the part. So we're kind of separating out a few of these little sections here, making a few pop forward, pushing a few back. Getting kind of at the top of her head since it's down on the floor. There we go. So this was a huge series, right? We started with YR31, went to YR24, YR27, E15, and E27. So that's the whole series. I'm definitely going to skip the E15. In this case, I'm actually, for right now, going to skip that YR27. No, I'm not. I'm going to do just a tiny bit with my YR27. I'm going to come back a little bit into some of those darker areas, pull out and into that highlight. Just a little bit more. Getting a lot of ink on that page, so I'm going to try to be really light-handed with this layer because I've got a couple spots that are really threatening a little bit getting shiny on me. So, and then I'm going to go back all the way to the YR31, and all I'm going to do is write in to those highlights that are left. So I'm not creating new ones. It's just going to catch those edges where it's really crisp. So kind of watch one specifically. So we've got this really crisp highlight. I'm going to go right into that spot and kind of brush both directions, and sunlight kind of softens those edges and softens that little piece. And that's my goal with this step. Not blending smooth, but softening all of that. But I think that works pretty well with her. You could do darker, you could do something that is more brunette and darker. You could go with black, play around with that. Let's go ahead and get her little kitten. So he is not going to go as dark, or she. But I'm going to add some striping. So this is that YR24. And what I should have done before I started this, I have not seen a calico cat from the back. I'm not totally sure. So I'm going to assume it has kind of similar effect with its little kind of wedges, little tiger stripes of these colors. So with my YR24, I'm going to put a few of those on each side. They do not have to be even. In fact, they're better if they're not. I'm going to say this leg is mostly that darker color, and this one only has a little pieces. Okay, and then I'm going to add at least one more YR27, and all it has to do on this one is it's going to come right into the center of those areas. So it's going to make a smaller triangle. And then I look at this kind of similar to what I've done on her hair. I kind of want to see, personally, I'd like to see some of that texture. So I don't necessarily want to create a smooth look across the cat. But what I might do is I would take the YR31 and literally just kind of brush really lightly. One pass, no circling. I don't need to like go 3 passes to make it smooth, but it's just enough to soften those edges. All right. Before we move on to, we need to get the hands. Actually, let's do that first. I am going to guess because of where they are going to be a little bit darker. So I'm going to actually just start with my E13. We've got pinky over here. We've got a little bit of wrist and thumb on the inside. And then all we've got left is kind of the little bit of clothing we see, and those will go pretty fast. E15. Kind of bottom edge if you can. Where it's coming out from behind. So if that gets pretty dark, you're okay. That's a kind of tough area to do a whole lot of work. One of the really fun things about digital artwork is you can resize it to make it work for you. You can also change the lines to make it like a gray or a pink, so you can create that no line look. All right, this is, sorry, I'm just moving on like you know what I'm doing. This is BV23. I'm going to come in and add a little bit of a cast shadow. Definitely get a good heavy cast shadow on both legs. I'm not going to do the hairline because if anything, you might see a little bit. We'll do that hint of the piece over by her cheek. And you could definitely argue her whole body is shadowing her face, but let's go with some of the smaller details. We can add a cast shadow to the kitty cat once we get that area done, but let's get that colored first. I'm actually going to go dark to light on her shorts. So I'm trying to throw a little bit of both into each video so you guys can see both ways to do some coloring. This is a B93. I'm going for a very light washed denim. So starting where it would be darker. Again, we've got 2 cylinders, kind of creating the roundness of her back end, her rear end up in the air. Darker inside the denim. And I want to differentiate the pocket, but I don't necessarily, but I still want to have kind of that darker piece coming down the leg. the B91 is going to come in from the center and work out into that B93. Soften that edge. It's funny, the B9s to me are not the easiest to work with. I love them because I love the color that they are. I like that very desaturated blue. I actually use it quite a bit, but they are not the easiest colors to work with, and in particular with each other. Here we are. I always kind of talk about natural blending groups, but this natural blending group is not one that necessarily plays nicely. So you do have to do a little bit of work, a little bit of elbow grease. Now, it's still not quite where I want it, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my B93 while this is extremely wet, and I'm going to brush over those darker areas and into that lighter area, kind of flicking, and that is going to help that blend in a little bit more. Right away, back on that newly wetted ink. There we go. So this is pretty subtle. I'm actually going to let that dry, and then I'm going to come back and do one more thing on that. I'm going to put a little purple on her shirt. So I'm going to do, the darker of the two is a V15. And again, you can argue there probably isn't a whole lot of light. I mean, she's completely shaded herself from the sun, but I'm going to add the V12 because it's one of my fun favorite colors. I like the brightness of that. And then I'm going to actually turn her sneakers into red sneakers. So again, I'm going to stay with my dark to light here, and I'm going all the way to an R39 for my darkest. I like how cool this one is. I like the desaturated nature of this one, but I'm actually going to add a lighter tone right on top of this that's going to brighten it up, because I'm torn. I like this color, but I always feel like I want it a little more red when I get there. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So this is pretty cool, meaning it has kind of those blue undertones. So now I'm going to do R24, and I'm going to go all the way over that color and bring it out a little bit further. So it definitely brightens it up. But now I have that R39 sitting under those areas, so it really cools down where I want it darker. So to me, this is that kind of really nice, I'm getting it right where I want it to go by using that kind of underpainting with that cooler tone, even though it's still right there in those reds. Tiny, tiny bits of white left, and I'm reserving the right to come back and hit those again in just a second. This is an R22. And typically, this pops those little highlights, and then it's up to you. If that gets too light and now it's leaning toward pink, while it's wet, you could bring that R24 in and kind of come in just a touch over the top of a little bit of that. Pull that in a little tighter. And reds, you don't want to play with too much. They will scoot right out of your lines. So caution there. I've got a couple spots I want to come in and add a little bit more of that BB23 inside the cuffs. or inside the shorts. And then also a little tiny bit on the soles of the shoes. And where was it? Oh, I'm going to add some more up there, but I need my colorless blender first. And that is going to go right in that highlight area on the denim. Circles kind of back and forth on the thigh. And then right up kind of near the center of the pocket on both pockets. Both legs. I am not going out to the edge. I'm staying kind of right in the center. It's going to do a couple things. It is going to lighten it. It's also going to give it the look of kind of a stone washed or washed denim. These are her favorite summer shorts. They are well loved. Of course, we buy them all that way now, but I actually saw a neat tutorial recently for someone who'd done ripped denim, torn jeans. It was pretty cute. It might be something I need to try, not on this. Okay, so I do need to let that sit for just a second, but before I put the shadow underneath the cat, but hopefully you can kind of see what I was going for. She's pretty cute. I like her a lot. So if you have any questions ever, please don't hesitate to ask and post those in the comment section. I do try to come back once or twice a week and make sure those are getting answered. Every once in a while I don't catch them, and so I come back to them later, but make sure to put them there. If you haven't seen, I'm in the works of kind of changing some things up at Copic in the craft room and on my blog. So if things don't look right or you're seeing funny things going on, it's because I'm doing some work behind the scenes and I don't have a lot of help. So it's me. So I'm just kind of working my way through stuff. So when you feel like those little shorts are dry, you can come back in. This is, again, is that BV23. And add that little shadow. And if you want to soften that, grab your lighter blue. This is that B91. Kind of in right at that edge. There we go. All right, there we go. We'll put either a little bit of a background behind her, or I will fussy cut her out and put her on a card. Thank you guys so much, as always, for joining me at Copic in the Craft Room on YouTube. Check out my blog, check out the Facebook page, and have a happy, colorful day.